Hi everybody, I'm Jessie Ziegler with Threaded Quilting Studio, and I have a fun quilting design to show you today. I completed this recently, and it had been a while, and I thought, oh, this will be fun to share. It incorporates some spirals, we have feathers, and we also have pebbling, and together they form a really rich texture across a quilt that I think you're going to like. So I'm going to actually draw this with paper and pen and try my best to vocalize what's going through my head. Hopefully it will make sense. There's probably going to be a lot of ums and do this and maybe some sound effects. You never know. Let's get started. Like I mentioned, the spiral is kind of like the base of this design. So I'm going to go ahead and just make my first spiral. And when I do this, I am making sure I'm leaving enough room to spiral back out. Just like that. I'm kind of going to use the edge of the quilt as a spine of sorts. So my first series of feathers are going to extend out from the spiral, and I'm aiming to branch out kind of at a 45-degree angle, or really just kind of splitting the difference each time when I make a feather plume between what I have already stitched and between the space that I have left. So here we go. And I'm backtracking and then aiming back for this spine area, pivoting out, backtracking, pivoting back. And I'm also just keeping the thought in the back of my mind, I don't want to end my feather this way, so I'd have to come in and fill this area. Keep in mind always the area that you want to fill, because it's kind of a pain to break your threads at the end and then have to go back. So really try to complete the area when you're there. So pretending my needle would be down as it is in quilting and not as flexible as a pen, I'm going to backtrack on these lines and start using some circles, or what is called pebbling. And I'm going to make some big, some small, some medium size. I might even just throw a spiral shape in there that I won't feather, but it's just a good way to take up more space, basically. You could fill that space certainly with tinier still pebbles, but it's nice to be able to throw in a few of the bigger guys there. So I'm going to start with another spiral, and this time I will feather off from it and go in this direction. So when I'm angling, I don't really have a spine to reference, so I'm kind of aiming toward this the base of the spiral, or where things originated. And there's really no rhyme or reason how long I'm making this. I kind of want them to swoop out. And I'm also trying to fill this space here. Okay, that's nice. So when I stop here, I'll also fill this area with circles or pebbles and backtrack here. And I'm going to treat the edge of this last long feather, as my next spine. These feathers will pretty much go in the same direction, just on the other side. They can start out small to fill your space and get larger as you come around and fill other areas. Okay, I'm kind of out of spine there, so I will stop and do some more pebbling. If you notice, I'm kind of using what I'd call maybe a figure 8 method to make my pebbles. There is just backtracking when this is involved, which is fine. The more you have, the more camouflaged, I guess, your lines will be, and it's not absolutely necessary that they're all backtracked perfectly. It's all going to blend in, and it will just make a nice texture. Starting another spiral, and I'll go out this way. It is nice in this design that you have feathers going out in different directions. And I'll show you next here. One of my favorite parts of this design when I meet up with a line like that, I don't need to go all the way back down. I just let that kind of be good enough. Okay, while I'm up here, I'm going to fill in this area. And now to the part I like. So I'll track back over this edge, and I'll make a little spiral to get myself started, but what I'm doing here is I'm going to use the spine to do my next series of feathers, but I'm going to go against the way they are here, so in the opposite direction. So that will be my first plume, and then I'm going to come back and use this as a spine and travel all the way back toward this spiral. And when I'm traveling back here, I'm giving myself, I'm not going all the way back here, but I'm giving myself some space from my last feather to this one. But when I go out, I generally just pivot right where I am. It's not a rule, it's just a tendency that I have, and I'll show you again. So coming back, I don't go all the way, but I do pivot out kind of immediately. Okay, so I really like how that whooshes. I like the different direction there, and I think it looks interesting in the overall quilt design when it's stitched out. So I'm going to go ahead and keep filling in some pebbles, put some small ones and maybe a larger one, maybe just a spiral that doesn't get feathered. And then it's time to do another spiral. And I'm going out in this direction. That's a very spirally spiral. Between you and me, I really don't like that much of a curve, but you'll develop your own like tastes and preferences, and it's totally fine. It will look wonderful in the quilt. It's just kind of like I don't know why I don't like that much of a swoop. Okay, so I'm going to start this way, kind of going in the same direction with this set of feathers. I guess it's worth noting here that when you're up against the edge of a quilt, a 1/4 inch at least is going to be covered up by binding, so you might not want your stitching lines to go all the way to the edge like I did there, but more off of off of the edge just so it won't be covered up or cut even when it's trimmed when the quilt is completed. Okay, so I ended up here, I think. I would just backtrack across the tops of the feathers and make another spiral, or I could pebble to fill that area in. Just put a pebble or two in here and start pebbling around. That can be, that plume for instance is very small, that's fine. You can make a bunch of small ones or a lot of large ones. It's totally preference. Okay, I'm going to add another plume. One thing, if you want the to keep in mind, if you want the plumes to go in opposite directions, like here, you'll want to stop when after you've made the tip. Actually, this one is kind of a weird one, so I'll put the spiral here, and then I'll go out in this direction. And I would just, if it was thread and fabric, I would just backtrack. And I might throw in another spiral here and go out in this direction. And maybe do a few pebbles and another spiral and go off this edge, and I'm looking here to fill that space so I don't have to go back in later. And I would bump back over here and just fill this area in with pebbles, big and small, maybe a spiral.
And there you have it. I hope that this becomes useful somehow in your quilt making. Yeah, if you have any comments or questions for me, I would love to hear from you. You can email me at threadedquilting@gmail.com. You can leave a comment here on the video. Follow me on Instagram at threadedquilting. Yeah, so enjoy, practice, and I will see you guys for another tutorial next time. Bye!